Hello.
Ladies first, introduce yourself, Farrell.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'm Farrell Miller. I have lots of experience in the cannabis sector when it comes to licensing, mostly CBD and wellness products, and nutraceuticals was my kind of specialty area until I recently did a pivot to retail, actually. I'm now in the process of opening some retail stores across Canada, but the little bit of work I did in licensing cannabis products gave me some insight into the psychedelics realm. And when I was doing my legal training, I did assist on some work with some psilocybin cases that are currently developing that I'm sure we'll talk about here. So I'll hand it off to any of the other guys to introduce themselves.
Rob,
Zuber, jump in.
Sure. I'll go next. This is Tom Zuber. I'm the managing partner of Zuber Lawler. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with my esteemed colleagues. I've known David and Rob for some time, and it's a pleasure to be speaking with everyone here. Zuber Lawler, under God, we have 5 offices across the United States. We do a lot of work for Fortune companies, including pharmaceutical companies, as an example, and foods companies. But we've also been in the emerging industries and technologies out in the forefront of those. And one example is legalized cannabis. We've been in legalized cannabis representing lead companies for over 13 years. At this point, we represent a large percentage of the biggest brands in U.S. cannabis in relation to their litigation, their M&A and finance work, their FDA work, and intellectual property work. So we also are out in front as far as the psychedelics conversation. We're doing some cutting edge work there. Obviously, that conversation is newer, which is what makes it so exciting and what makes me so excited to be part of this panel. So again, a pleasure to be on it with such esteemed colleagues. Thank you.
Should I jump in, David? Leave you for last.
Yeah,
You've got the most significant academic credentials of us all. All right, I'm Robert Laurie. I'm principal founder of Adluce and Law Corporation. I wear many hats in this industry. I'm fairly well known for the work I've done in the cannabis space in the last, I'd say, 4 years. I started the pivot over to psychedelics. I work with Dr. Dennis McKenna. I am a board advisor to MAPS Canada, a legal advisor to Heroic Hearts UK, and most recently, I'm very pleased to announce that I recently became the senior advisor to TheraCann International Benchmark Corporation, which is a leading global full turnkey solutions and critical infrastructure provider for the regulated food, cannabis, and psychedelics industry. Why it's really exciting is that, TheraCann does the design, build, own, and operations of major international, sometimes government-backed infrastructure projects involving food, hemp, cannabis, and I was brought in to assist with the psychedelic infrastructure. What's really, which I didn't have appreciation until I started, but TheraCann advises international governments, central banks, banking, regulatory circles, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies. It's been a really interesting time, and we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, in our panel. Now, hang on, it gives me great pleasure to introduce David Wood of Borden Ladner Gervais.
Yeah. Thank you. No, very happy to be here. Met Tom and Rob on a few occasions, and very happy to meet Farrell. And I've been practicing law for about 10 years, a little over 10 years, and I've been exclusively patent law until 2016, at which point I received medical access and learned how the system worked and thought, well, these people must have lawyers. I'm going to, see what I can do in that market. And fast forward to now, about 95% of my work is in cannabis and psychedelics, and it's fantastic. And my personal practice is patent law and regulatory law. I have a PhD in biochemistry, which helps understand a lot of these things and relate to what the companies are actually trying to accomplish. So it's a very natural fit for advising heavily on regulatory points and on protecting technologies or accounting for patents held by others. And BLG, though, where the law firm I'm a partner at, is a full-service national law firm. We're the largest firm in Canada. So I'm working in teams frequently for participants in the psychedelics industry, primarily including space, I guess. I don't know if we call it an industry yet, but the psychedelic space, primarily operators or investment banks. I'm actually visiting a client that I'm allowed to talk about, which is Sansero. I'm at their facility right now. There's also a cannabis research license here, which allows these plants to be behind me. And it's wonderful to be part of the panel. I'm looking forward to hearing Rob, Farrell, and Tom's perspectives on this and just getting into it, because I think we're all on the right side of history here.
And the law.
Yeah, always, of course, only.
So I'm just going to hop in quick, guys, while Henri's just working through some bandwidth issues, and he's probably going to call in. But I would love to kind of just hear from all four of you. You can go alphabetical or same order you went last time, and tell us about what drew you to the legal landscape of psychedelics. Was it from work in cannabis, obviously, but more personally, what drew you, and what change do you want to impact on legislation in Canada and worldwide?
Okay, I guess I'm going first. So kind of similarly to Dave, although at the time I was just a law student, I got my own access for medical cannabis, and I thought, oh, these people must need lawyers. Maybe I'm going to focus in on this area of law through my legal education. And I reached out to other lawyers that were well known in the space, like Kirk Tusaw, who rejected my request to article with him twice. And I just persisted, and I ended up really lucking out and getting an opportunity to work with Paul Lewin in Toronto, who was doing a lot of groundbreaking work with patients and had worked previously on some of the same cases as Kirk, fighting for patient access to cannabis. And with Paul, while I was articling under him, we worked on some of the early groundwork for the TheraStil legal arguments and eventual challenge that we foresee happening. And it was really interesting to sit down with Paul, my articling principal at the time, and have him ask me if I had any experience taking psychedelics. And I was comfortable enough to say, yes, I did. In fact, people used to call me the acid fairy. And I was very pleased that my articling principal was actually overjoyed to hear that, because not every articling student gets to have that experience. So ultimately, that's why I'm here. I'm the acid fairy. And this is why I think I was ultimately called to work in this space. So I will pass it off to Tom, I suppose, who went up the last time.
Sure. So this is Tom Zuber. Thank you, Farrell. And for me, I think to start with the big picture here, I think that these plants are gifts from God. There's so much technology inside these plants, and the potential for these plants to alleviate the human condition throughout the world, and furthermore, perhaps even to distribute wealth throughout the world, is profound. And so there's that. Also, as a law firm, we do, like BLG, we do a number of services across the board: M&A, the finance, litigation, and IP and regulatory work, and international work, and so forth. I'm an IP attorney. I'm a patent attorney, and I'm a biomedical engineer by education. And for me, and also my colleagues tend to have PhDs. So we have a PhD pharmacologist at Yale and a PhD botanist who's a patent attorney, and so on and so forth. Just looking at this from a technology perspective and doing work, for instance, for pharmaceutical companies, it's become apparent to us that there's so much technology that is yet unexplored. And whether it's from a deal standpoint, whether it's from a litigation standpoint, or a pure patent portfolio standpoint and exploitation of technology standpoint, it's a very exciting space. And so having been brought into cannabis by accident, I do partake, but at the time I didn't. And this was 13 years ago now. My buddy started seminal cannabis companies. They became leading cannabis companies, so it was very much by accident. There were no corporate lawyers in the States at the time, and they said, Tom, could your firm handle this first financing round we're doing, or this acquisition, which is our first, or something like that, a real partnership dispute that's happened, and we would like your firm to handle it. And we decided we probably wouldn't go to jail for doing illegal work, and so here we are. And now with psychedelics, it's just I think another category of this plant subject matter, and we're all in as a firm as far as trying to help others bring the potential of this plant to fruition. With that, I guess I'll pass it off to my dear friend, Rob.
All right, here we go. So, yeah, I have a very long history. I'll give you the high level. Well, cannabis is just one of the medicines that in my life. I was diagnosed very early. At one point, I was one of the youngest kids. I was 4 when I was diagnosed with ADHD. And in fact, my parents had some real concerns about giving a 4-year-old. Well, actually, no, it seems to be more concerns generally about giving children cannabis than there was ever any discussion about giving a 4-year-old, riddle methamphetamine. But for me, it was the difference between being the productive, thoughtful member of the class or the Tasmanian devil. And so for me, growing up, the joke was always more drugs than hot dinners. And well, through personal experience, I really understand. I am a medical patient. I was a medical patient from the age of 4. And when I came back from England, seeing with all the advancements, I went to Oxford for law school and worked in like London, New York, and capital markets, came home, and well, I was inspired while requalifying, reading about the work of John Conroy and Kurt Tusaw and Farrell's former principal, Paul Lewin, who I'm working with. David and I are working with now on the Dr. Tobin psilocybin challenge. But ultimately was learning like, what? These are the reasons why we can't access this product, children? That for real? And I don't know. I just sort of felt like I could outmaneuver a lot of these policies because I'd had to deal with it my whole life. Psychedelics actually cannabis also came in high school because, well, when your younger brother's best friends with Seth Rogen's dealer for 7.5 years, yeah, that's kind of why junior high got interested in law that way. But psychedelics first was St. George's on the grade 11 summer reading list. They had The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley. And I guess that book, coupled with the Cypress Hill Black Sunday album cover, which really went into detail about why industrial hemp is illegal. And I'm like, again, are these people blind? Like, this can't be real, like these laws. And so for part of me is, I don't know, I've wanted to challenge what I perceive as the bullshit and fight it hard. And well, being a lawyer in the dispensary test case was great because once the city of Vancouver decided to regulate something they weren't allowed to, in the words of John Conroy, we fucking ran at them. And then that now has led to working on the Tobin psilocybin test case. And I guess all this work has now led to, well, being a senior advisor with Theracan. And so that's kind of how I got here. And psychedelics remains extremely important to me. And I'll just end on this last note. I make no bones about it. I mean, being involved with MAPS, I know a lot of people. I've traveled to South America with Dennis McKenna to do ayahuasca. I've done a number of other deep psychedelic dives with the people that, well, read Michael Pollan's book. I know a lot of these people personally. And for me, I truly believe that these medicines are necessary for everybody because without them, how are you ever going to truly understand yourself? And these medicines actually enable you to see what are your problems and identify them so that you can begin to make changes. And I'm so grateful and blessed for the last 2 years that I've had in this space because I look at how these medicines have changed my life, how they've changed others' lives. And while working together, there's no challenge on where we can go with this. So that's, yeah, my life's really just led me to here because of who I am. And I guess you can't outrun who you really are, which is, well, concerned about laws involving health and wellness.